The Scoundrel is an extremely mobile single-target burst damage dealer that excels at flanking enemies and then quickly jumping back to safety before the enemies can react. A mix of slow and extremely fast initiatives help with this, along with some pretty high move abilities and even the ability to go invisible for a turn. This video is the second in my starting guide series preparing for Gloomhaven's release on Nintendo Switch and other consoles. We'll be delving into how the Scoundrel plays, and then discussing each of the starting ability cards, and finally we'll talk about how best to equip the Scoundrel. So let's get to it. The Scoundrel plays like the name suggests. You will be most effective when taking advantage of enemies already adjacent to allies to do high damage. I like to call the Scoundrel a hop in, hop out character, meaning you'll likely want to use a late initiative to let enemies move in and get adjacent to your allies, before moving in to attack, as a lot of your cards will do more damage when enemies are adjacent to an ally. Then you'll want to go early the next round to hit the enemy again before they can react, and then jump back to where you won't be targeted. As you've probably figured out, the Scoundrel is a mostly single target DPS character. With medium health, which starts at 8, and a small hand size of 9, the Scoundrel isn't built to take too many hits, but pairs really well with a tank for the reasons I just mentioned. The Scoundrel is a lot of fun to play, especially at early levels, just for the sheer amount of damage she can do. Plus, her mobility and loot abilities make her great for grabbing hard to get chests, and overall just bringing in a boatload of coins. So let's jump on over to the level 1 cards and the level X cards now, and discuss the Scoundrel in more detail. We start out with Single Out. If you haven't noticed yet, high damage is going to be a theme here, and this card is no exception. The top is an attack 3, but if the target is adjacent to an ally, we get to add 2 more attack to it for a total of attack 5, and then gain 1 XP. Attack 5 at level 1 is devastating to most enemies, and this is just one of 2 cards that can do this at level 1. The bottom of Single Out is also a great damage dealer, as we can add +2 attack to our next 4 attacks that target an enemy that isn't adjacent to any of its allies. Now, this is a lost card, but just imagine using this with another card that can give you attack 5, making the total attack 7. Like I said, high damage potential, and this is just the first card. With initiative at 86, this card is great for going late and waiting for that opportunity to strike where you will be most effective. Moving on now to Flanking Strike, this card's top ability is exactly the same as the previous card with attack 3 and add 2 if the target is adjacent to an ally. These 2 cards can be great using them back to back to deal a base of 10 damage. The bottom of Flanking Strike is a very nice move 5, which will allow the Scoundrel to get just about anywhere she needs to be. Finally, the initiative is a very early 4, which consistently beats just about everything else and also allows us to chain this attack with a late attack from the previous turn. Next up, we have Smoke Bomb. This card's top ability will make Scoundrel go invisible, which means she cannot be targeted until the end of her next turn, and it creates the dark element as well. But the kicker is that this is an active lost card that gives you 2 XP and doubles your next attack while invisible. With this card, Scoundrel can do upwards of 14 or 18 damage before modifiers. With a ×2 crit, we're talking about 30 plus damage. This move can be great for just wiping out the health pools of early bosses. The bottom of the card is a pull 2 range 3, which can be useful for bringing an enemy into range of Single Out or Flanking Strike, or pulling them over a trap. The initiative is a 12, meaning you should be able to go before most enemies fairly easily with this card. Backstab is next on the list with a top loss that can do a max attack 7 in the right conditions. The base attack is 3, then if the target is adjacent to an ally, we can add +2 attack and 1 XP. Finally, if the target is not adjacent to any of its allies, we can add another +2 attack and 1 XP for the total of 7 attack and 2 XP. This card can be a great one to follow up Smoke Bomb top with, giving you an attack 14 in that case. Though with a smaller hand size the Scoundrel has, we do need to be careful with lost cards. The bottom of this one though is a great move 6, which in itself is a good enough reason to keep this card in your hand. With initiative 6, this is also another great card for going first in the round. Alright, now we move on to Thief's Knack, which is getting us back into the normal damage range. The top allows us to disarm one adjacent trap and gain 2 XP. This is a nice utility in theory, but in my experience I rarely use this, preferring rather to push or pull enemies over traps to clear them instead. Though this could just come down to playstyle. The bottom though is a nice attack 3 and gain 1 XP. As I mentioned in the Brute guide, bottom attack abilities are really nice for the burst potential, especially here with the Scoundrel, who could be easily dealing 5 damage with a top attack from another card. The initiative is a little later at 23, but still fairly decent at going early. This next card, Venom Shiv, has a couple solid abilities. The top is an attack 3, poison, and gain 1 XP, while the bottom is a strong move 5. Pairing the top here with the bottom attack on Thief's Knack could work really well. The initiative though is not that great, but it could still be used to go after an ally, which would allow you to move the Scoundrel up and still not be the focus of monsters, since if 2 mercs are equal distance from a monster, the monster will focus on the one who went first in the round. Throwing Knives is the Scoundrel's first ranged attack, with a top attack 2, range 3, target 2, and gain 1 XP. This ability can pair really well with single out bottom if facing enemies with lower health values, but otherwise, multi-attacks where you don't have to follow a specific pattern are always useful. The bottom is Scoundrel's first loot ability with a loot 2, which can grab up a lot of coins, but it is also a loss, making it a little harder to justify using. The initiative is another good early one at 10. Next up, we have Quick Hands. The top is a move 2, attack 2, allowing us to move into range and attack with a single ability. This is another great one to combo with a bottom attack on Thief's Knack, or really just about any other bottom ability. Combined with a move 6 bottom, we could move 8 in one turn. The bottom of this card is a loot 1, which is arguably more useful than the loot 2 on Throwing Knives, just because this one is not a loss ability. The initiative is a 64, which again isn't the greatest, but should help us go after our allies at least, if we need to. The last of the level 1 cards is Special Mixture. The top here is the Scoundrel's only heal ability at level 1, and it is a self-heal of 3. The bottom is a pretty useful move 3 and poison 1 adjacent enemy. I like to combo this one with either single out or flanking strike top to turn the attack 5 into an attack 6, as poison adds +1 attack to attacks targeting those with it. The initiative is a 33, which is one of Scoundrel's worst initiatives, being way too slow to go early and way too fast to go late. Alright, moving on now to the more specialized X cards. First we have Sinister Opportunity. The top here is an attack 3, add +1 for each ally adjacent to the target. Then if you can consume Dark, add +2 attack instead and gain 1 XP. So basically we have a more advanced and situational version of single out and flanking strike tops. In an absolutely perfect situation with allied summons and 3 other mercs, you could get attack 13 out of this non-loss card. Realistically though, you'll have a reliable attack of 4, maybe 5. The bottom is an interesting one because it's a move 3, but then you get to force one adjacent enemy to move 1, but they still have to be adjacent to you at the end of the move. I say this is interesting because the rules for pushes and pulls require that the target is moved farther away each time or brought closer each time, respectively. This ability will essentially allow you to move an enemy laterally, which could be useful for throwing them onto traps or swinging them to be adjacent to an ally to power up your next attack. The initiative here is a great late initiative at 93. If you were going to use this card, the obvious card to replace it with would be either Single Out or Flanking Strike. Next we have Trickster's Reversal. The top of this one is an attack 2, but we get to add twice the target's shield value to our attack and gain 2 XP. This attack is awesome at taking out shielded enemies for this reason, but at level 1 you're not going to see enough shield and health on enemies for this card to be worth the loss. The bottom allows us to ignore the damage from the next attack targeting us in the current round, which sounds great, but isn't that useful most of the time. As I said, X cards can have very situational uses, making them powerful in the right situation, but less useful in general. The initiative though is a nice early 9. As far as what card to trade out if you wanted to use this one, I'd probably recommend one of Scoundrel's weaker attack cards like Venom Shiv or Quick Hands, and I would only do this when you know you'll be facing shielded enemies. Finally, we come to Swift Bow, the second ranged attack available to the Scoundrel at level 1. This top is a strong attack 3 at range 4, which can give us some nice versatility, and the bottom is a move 2 and loot all hexes moved through. The bottom tends to be much less useful than it sounds, but the top action here is a good reason to take this card. The initiative is a poor 36 though. If you want to bring this one along, I'd consider trading out Quick Hands, as with the extra range on Swift Bow, you can do without the top move from Quick Hands. Alright, that'll do it for the cards, so let's jump into the starting item recommendations. Honestly, most of the starting items can be useful to the Scoundrel, but I'd start with the leather armor or winged shoes, then pick up the stamina potion. After that, pick up whichever the first two you didn't take, and then go for eagle eye goggles. Finally, pick up either the poison dagger or the piercing bow. The leather armor will impose disadvantage on the first two attacks to target us after each long rest. This is limited in its usefulness, but can help prevent a few points of damage, though the invisibility cloak is a great option too, as it can come in handy when trying to flank enemies. The winged boots will help us get into position for our flanking attacks by giving us jump so we can get behind enemies. The stamina potion is almost a necessity for any class that only has a 9-card hand. The eagle eye goggles will give us advantage and are great for making sure we don't pull the miss modifier when using one of our 10+ damage attacks. Finally, the poison dagger is just a good standby for any melee character really, but the piercing bow could be good against shielded enemies when paired with swift bow or throwing knives. The Scoundrel is another fun and easy class to play when first getting into Gloomhaven. Though the Scoundrel's moveset might be simple, in the right hands it can be brutally devastating to your enemies. If you like dealing high damage and playing aggressively, you'll like the Scoundrel. Please remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to ask any questions or discuss Gloomhaven in the comments below. If you missed my Brute Starter guide, you can watch it right here. As always, thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and keep on gaming.